The giant body of scattered monsters is pulled by a carrier. It seems the danger has ended, but the three big cities were heavily destroyed. Tens of millions of people were killed with unprecedented consequences. Within 6 months, a second creature emerged from the deep, huge sea, like a mobile mountain, heading towards land. The army must mobilize its entire force, and after 3 days of continuous fighting, they defeat the monster. But that was just the beginning. Another creature appeared, and the third, fourth head revealed, signaling that the attacks will not stop. But we must start from 2013, at the deepest world of the ocean, where a gate to a mysterious space has opened, which is the birthplace of creatures called Kaiju. Conventional weapons are useless against their huge strength and size. Facing extinction threats, countries were forced to unite to develop giant Jaeger fighting machines to confront the monsters. A Jaeger is a technological miracle controlled by two specially nervous-linked people that allow them to perfectly coordinate through memories and emotions. Among those elite pilots, Raleigh and Becket stand out as legendary warriors. Today, they were assigned to prevent a level 3 kaiju threatening the coast. Entering the control compartment, they wear specialized armor and are dropped into the Jaeger's control center. The giant machine gradually powers up, towers over all the surrounding objects, and is ready to go into battle. Despite orders to only guard the base, they decided to take risks to rescue the 10 civilians still stuck in the middle of the storm. As soon as the giant kaiju appeared, threatening to swallow a fishing boat, the Jaeger launched from under the water to promptly rescue the boat, allowing it to escape. The two brothers launched intense attacks, punching the monster's head and pushing it back. They triggered the cannon and fired, a large explosion that pushed the kaiju back to the seafloor. But the battle has not ended. The signal shows that the organism is still active. Shortly thereafter, it suddenly rushed out of the water, using sharp claws to attack the Jaeger. In a horrific moment, the kaiju grabbed the Jaeger's head and caused heavy damage. The life-and-death battle between man and monsters has not yet concluded. In that fateful battle, Raleigh's brother died. Alone in the Jaeger driving seat, Raleigh was forced to continue fighting. Although only one pilot left, he still resiliently targeted and activated the plasma cannon. Finally, an intense attack caused both the kaiju and the Jaeger to disappear from the radar screen. Fortunately, Raleigh is still alive. He brought the damaged fighting machine himself back to the mainland, where he collapsed exhausted on the northern coast. A man and his grandson promptly discovered and took him for emergency care. 5 years later, the Jaeger manufacturing program was gradually abandoned. Kaiju attacks appear with dense frequency, and Jaeger destruction is faster than humans can rebuild. World leaders decided to change direction, investing in giant walls surrounding cities, considering them a new defensive solution. However, some people, including Marshal Stacker Pentecost, realized this is a wrong decision. Despite objections from his superiors, he still silently maintained and improved the Jaeger program. Meanwhile, Raleigh withdrew from the battlefield, choosing a normal life by building the walls. However, hope collapsed when a level 3 kaiju easily destroyed a wall section in just a few hours. At that time, Jaeger Striker Eureka, the advanced robot model from Australia, appears and destroys the kaiju with precise missile attacks. People called on the pilot group to stay, but they were forced to leave to perform a mission in Hong Kong. Immediately after that, a helicopter landed. Raleigh was surprised to see Marshal Stacker Pentecost came to find him. He wanted Raleigh to be a pilot again. Initially, Raleigh refused. The memories of his brother's death were still haunting him. But the Marshal persuaded him with an undeniable question. Did he want to bury himself behind an unknown wall, or sacrifice as a hero in glory? Raleigh agreed. In Hong Kong, he met the Marshal's adopted daughter, Mako Mori, who had a cold appearance and suspicious eyes. He was then introduced to the existing Jaegers, including China's Crimson Typhoon, operated by the famous trio, and Russian Cherno Alpha, a durable and scary machine. There is also Striker Eureka, the most modern Jaeger, controlled by the experienced, firm father and son duo, the Hansons, with a record of 11 kaiju kills. The Marshal revealed their final plan. Attach nuclear weapons to one of the Jaegers and bring it to the space gate on the seabed where the breaches occur. Kaiju continuously pass through. The goal is to detonate the bomb right inside the barrier, close the gate, and block the threat forever. To support this, 2 scientists were summoned. Hermann Gottlieb, a theoretical physicist, and Newton Geisler, a biology expert on kaiju. Hermann believes that the frequency of kaiju appearances is increasing, which means that the gate is expanding. If true, there will be a chance to drop the bomb at the right time and close it forever. In contrast, Newton said that they did not understand enough about the opponent. Through DNA research, he discovered that kaiju were actually clones. Every individual was identical. He proposed a bold plan: connect directly to a live kaiju brain to understand the purpose, nature, and strategy of this mysterious creature. The Marshal chose the plan to use Hermann's nuclear weapon because he needed an immediate action plan, not to wait for unconfirmed hypotheses. After that, Mako took Raleigh to the simulator room. While talking, Raleigh asked how she assessed his previous Jaeger control. Mako frankly pointed out his weaknesses in his fighting style, showing an attitude that was not completely confident. However, after returning, she accidentally caught Raleigh practicing. His resilience and determination made her start looking at him differently. The next morning, Raleigh participated in the compatibility test round to find a co-pilot. He easily overcame each candidate without obstacles. At this time, he thought of Mako and wanted to coordinate with her, despite her previous doubts. He suggested that the marshal let Mako participate in a drift compatibility test. Specifically trained synchronization between the two people quickly became tense. The coordination movements gradually harmonized, showing they have a special mental link. After many combat simulation rounds, Raleigh admitted that Mako was the most ideal teammate he had ever met. However, the marshal still refused. He did not want his daughter to risk her life on the battle line. Disappointed, both of them left. At the same time, biologist Newton began to prepare his bold experiment. Despite being warned by the marshal, he still decided to connect his mind to the brain of a live kaiju. During the connection, Newton saw scary images of a strange world where kaiju were created as weapons by an alien race to invade Earth. Although the connection was almost life-threatening, fortunately, Herman promptly supported and saved him. After reporting the situation, the marshal decided to give Mako the opportunity to drive a Jaeger with Raleigh. When Mako entered the control compartment, Raleigh could not hide his surprise and joy. They begin the neural handshake process, connecting memories, emotions, and actions to operate the giant machine perfectly. At the same time, Newton shared with the command team what he saw. Kaiju are not natural creatures. They are biological weapons, created to destroy mankind and occupy Earth's resources. To better understand them, Newton needs to make a connection again, which requires another kaiju brain. The marshal agrees to support. He allowed them to contact Hannibal Chaw, a black market trader specializing in collecting and trading kaiju organs, who could help the group find what they needed. While Jaeger control training takes place, Raleigh began to have trouble. Inside the neural link, he suddenly saw the image of his deceased brother. The grief made the synchronization between him and Mako seriously interrupted. Mako, trying to maintain the connection, is also dragged into deep personal memories. She saw a childhood scene where her parents were killed by a kaiju in the city chaos. That memory was resurrected, causing her to panic and lose control. In a panic, she began to unconsciously react, triggering the Jaeger's weapons. The plasma cannon system was ready to fire. The situation became extremely dangerous when the entire base faced the risk of destruction from within. The technical team is forced to intervene to disable the Jaeger's weapons to protect the entire facility from a serious accident. Meanwhile, in another place, Newton came to Hannibal, who deals in kaiju parts on the black market, to find a new brain. Knowing that Newton had a neural link to a live kaiju brain, Hannibal was extremely angry. He warned that the connection was not only one way, but also allowed the alien side controlling the kaiju to access information about humans. That means Newton has become a target, and it is likely they will come to the hiding place to find him. Not long after, seismic sensors showed that worse was coming. Up to 2 level 4 kaiju were coming, named Otachi and Leatherback, giant variants with unique forms. The situation became serious. The marshal quickly assigned tactics. Russia's Jaeger Cherno Alpha and China's Crimson Typhoon will start to block the kaiju, while Striker Eureka, the Australian team, will stay to protect the harbor. Raleigh and Mako were also ordered to confront the new attack. The Jaegers are dropped into the ocean from transport helicopters. Everything seems quiet until Crimson Typhoon discovered strange motion. Otachi suddenly emerged from the surface of the water, hitting Crimson Typhoon with its violent tail. However, the Chinese pilot trio immediately countered, deploying circular saw-blade weapons, hoping to overwhelm the creature. But Otachi was too strong. It stopped the attack and fiercely countered the Jaeger. Cherno Alpha quickly rushed in, launching a series of continuous punches at Otachi's head. But the kaiju countered with an unexpected blow, submerging Cherno into the deep sea. Otachi returned to head directly at Crimson Typhoon and launched a lethal attack on the cockpit, causing the Jaeger to explode and the entire crew to sacrifice. Seeing teammates fall, Raleigh and Mako immediately acted. But Otachi did not stop. It spat out a strong corrosive acid flow, making the Jaeger systems paralyzed. Striker Eureka, the Jaeger team from Australia, immediately rushed to rescue. But at that moment, Leatherback, the second kaiju, suddenly jumped out of the water, attacked violently at Cherno Alpha's position, though Cherno was already down, and pulled the wreckage into the sea. Otachi switched to confrontation with Striker, but it was hit by a series of thunderous punches from the Australian machine, causing it to step back. On the battlefield, the pilots of Jaeger Cherno Alpha were drowned by Kaiju Leatherback into the deep sea and were missing. On the opposite side, Jaeger Striker Eureka quickly approached Otachi, landed a giant punch, gripped it simultaneously, and threw it into the water. They were about to launch the finisher, a series of close-range missiles. However, the level 4 kaiju suddenly activated a special capacity, creating extremely powerful electromagnetic shockwaves. All electronic devices in the area, including the headquarters, were immediately disabled. The new generation Jaegers stopped working completely. In that chaotic moment, only one hope remained. Gypsy Danger, the first nuclear-powered Jaeger, was still operating normally. There was no other choice. The Marshal ordered Raleigh and Mako to fight. Gypsy Danger was urgently deployed to rescue the squad. At this time, Kaiju Otachi, who knew about Dr. Newton through the two-way mind link, began to search for him to kill all traces. It destroyed a series of buildings in the city while Newton tried to escape. At another battle line, Herc Hansen, Striker Eureka's pilot, was injured after his Jaeger was suddenly attacked. Despite his broken arm, he and his son, Chuck, tried to distract the kaiju with flares to protect the team. However, that only made the creatures more aggressive. Right at the moment of endangerment, Jaeger Gypsy appeared, attacked from the back, and attracted the kaiju's attention. Raleigh and Mako controlled Gypsy to land safely, immediately launching a counterattack. They use wrist missiles to enhance the punch, repelling the organism. The kaiju recovered, counterattacked violently, but Gypsy did not step back now. Raleigh prepared the plasma cannon and fired continuously, causing the arms of the organism to be destroyed. The monster finally collapsed after a series of continuous attacks. Shortly thereafter, the Jaeger moved to an area with signs of devastation, where Kaiju Otachi was chasing Newton. Before the organism could attack, it noticed a giant black shadow moving from behind. Gypsy was approaching, dragging a cargo ship and using it as a giant sword, sweeping it straight at the kaiju. Otachi counterattacked, spewing acid, but Gypsy could dodge. Mako quickly grabbed the creature's tongue, and Raleigh tried to disable it. They broke its tail and tore Otachi's tongue with 2 hands, a reckless but effective action. It seemed like the ending, but Otachi suddenly grew wings and lifted Gypsy into the sky, stabbed through many buildings, and rushed towards the upper atmosphere. In the situation of losing control, Mako drew the last weapon, a plasma sword, and slashed the creature mid-air. The two began to fall freely towards the ground. To reduce the collision, they activated all remaining energy, creating a deceleration field before landing. Gypsy hit the ground with a fierce but not catastrophic shock. Mako was brought back to the control center amidst cheers and the admiration of everyone. Meanwhile, Dr. Newton and Herman discovered that one of the dead kaiju was pregnant. They decided to use the brain of the young creature to create a new neural link, ending more carefully to understand the origin of the monsters. When conducting neural synchronization, they discovered a horrific truth. Kaiju are actually created by creatures to force the space gate open. And now, the enemy knows the plan to destroy them. All efforts were almost revealed. The enemy was ready. And humanity now has only the last 2 Jaegers. The Marshal knows what this means. He accepts the maximum risk. It's time for all hands on deck. With Herc Hansen injured, his son Chuck volunteered for battle instead. He knew this could be the last task of his life. Before starting, he said goodbye to his father. The last 2 Jaegers, Striker Eureka and Gypsy Danger, were dropped into the sea, rushing towards the space gate. When diving deep into the ocean, visibility is seriously reduced. The closer they get, the more they feel something is wrong. 2 level 4 kaiju appeared but did not intend to attack. At that moment, scientists Newton and Herman ran frantically into the command center and shouted to stop immediately. They discovered that the gate only opens to kaiju DNA. Anything else passing through would be crushed in an instant. If the 2 Jaegers kept rushing in, it would be a one-way trip. But the warning came too late. Radar discovered a new kaiju, level 5, codenamed Slattern, emerging from the barrier, bigger and fiercer than any previous creature. Gypsy intended to reinforce, but was immediately blocked by 2 level 4 kaiju. A fierce battle broke out in the sea. Gypsy lost an arm in the fight, but Raleigh and Mako still maintained their spirit, launched a slash with the plasma sword, tearing the opponent with intense cutting force. On the other side, Striker Eureka was pushed back by Slattern, unable to approach the barrier. In despair, Marshal Pentecost decided to sacrifice. He would use Striker Eureka's nuclear reactor like a bomb to pave the way for Gypsy to complete the last task. He started the engine overload, creating a huge collision, causing the whole area to be engulfed in flames. The explosion destroyed the 2 level 4 kaiju and seemingly destroyed Slattern. But it still lived, and immediately blocked Gypsy, not allowing it near the gate. No more options, Raleigh controls Gypsy directly into Slattern, struggling in the final war. They use the kaiju's own body as a biological password, tricking the space gate into opening. While rushing down, Mako began to lose consciousness from lack of oxygen. Raleigh quickly put her in the emergency escape pod and launched her out, hoping she was safe. Alone, he continued to control Gypsy, advancing into the enemy's base. Raleigh put his hands on the dashboard, activated the nuclear reactor's explosive timer. Then he also launched himself from the Jaeger in the last emergency compartment. Inside, Gypsy Danger exploded, creating a nuclear explosion that destroyed the alien base and completely destroyed the space gate. On the surface, Mako was rescued. After a while, radar discovered another living signal. That was Raleigh. He was still alive. The Earth was saved. The gate was permanently closed. Both are picked up amidst joy, the touching cheers of the whole team. Humanity won. If you think kaiju have been wiped out since 10 years ago, you were wrong. A surviving monster brain is manipulating humanity from the shadows. A series of rogue Jaegers counterattack. A giant level 6 monster, unprecedented in history, is advancing towards Earth. Who will prevent this nightmare? And who will have to sacrifice to save the world? Many years have passed since the event called the Breach Battle, the time humanity was pushed to the verge of extinction by the huge alien creatures called Kaiju. From the crack on the bottom of the Pacific, they passed through the space gate, flooding the Earth, destroying cities, and sowing global horror. Facing the risk of destruction, countries around the world were forced to put aside all conflicts and unite to create huge combat machines called Jaegers, controlled by the neural link between two pilots. It was not just a war with weapons, it is also the war of spirit, courage, and unmistakable sacrifices. Thanks to the assertive command of Marshal Stacker Pentecost and the last heroic warriors, humanity successfully closed the interdimensional gate, repelled the Kaiju, and closed the darkest chapter of human history. But peace is just a fragile appearance. Many cities suffered serious consequences because Kaiju blood was toxic, causing severe pollution. While his father used to be a hero in the eyes of humanity, his son Jake Pentecost lived recklessly. Once a Jaeger pilot, Jake now lived by scavenging Jaeger technology and smuggling, cooperating with his accomplices on daring salvage missions to make money from damaged Jaeger parts. One day, while breaking into an abandoned facility to find a rare energy core, Jake's group was ambushed. He was double-crossed and chased by customers, forced to flee deep into an old factory. Here, Jake discovered a strange room equipped with many complex drawings and models. But what surprised him more was a mini Jaeger assembled from scrap. When he was still surprised at the homemade machine, a girl suddenly appeared and attacked him. The girl named Amara Namani is the genius engineer behind the Jaeger she made herself, called Scrapper. For her, it is not only a machine, but a friend, a hope of survival in a world still dangerous. Jake advised her to sell it to avoid trouble, but Amara disagreed. She knew that illegally manufacturing and driving a Jaeger was a violation and would be hunted by the defense forces. As expected, just a few minutes later, a giant Jaeger named November Ajax, representing the military, arrived to arrest both. Amara quickly created a diversion with smoke grenades and drove to the Scrapper. November Ajax was pushed aside, and the Scrapper began to roll away in the literal sense. The small machine can curl up like a steel sphere and rush away at an unexpected speed. But before it could escape, Scrapper was blocked. Although the engine is maneuverable and compact, it is no match for the power of a standard Jaeger. After being pursued by the Jaeger giant called Ajax, Amara and Scrapper tried to distract it by controlling Scrapper into an abandoned building, hoping to cut off the opponent. Ajax, with its huge size, still chased relentlessly, step by step shaking the ground. Realizing that Scrapper had entered a building, Ajax immediately ordered a tactic to climb the roof and press down. Jake and Amara tried to buy time by dropping the power core battery to create noise and distract Ajax. On that occasion, they launched a counterblow, triggering an electric shock to halt the chase. The plan seemed successful, but Scrapper quickly ran out of reserve energy. Jake sighed bitterly, telling himself, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." But at that time, the Jaeger giant reappeared, releasing a high-voltage current that paralyzed the entire control system of Scrapper. Amara led the way out despite all dangers and shouted defiance. As a result, the two were captured and imprisoned at the military headquarters. During the dialogue, Amara revealed that she did not build Scrapper just for fun, but as a survival machine, a backup plan for the day Kaiju returned. She believes that one day humanity will need Jaegers. Jake was taken to see a senior officer, Mako Mori, who was none other than his adoptive sister. Their reunion was tense as Mako showed deep disappointment. A pilot who had a brilliant future now became a criminal. Instead of being taken to court and serving time, she gave Jake a last chance. Return to the Jaeger program headquarters to help retrain the new generation of pilots, while Amara would officially be recruited into the Jaeger cadet program. With no other choice, Jake accepted. They were taken to a secret training institute on an island located in Chinese territory. Here, Jake meets Lambert again. This old partner has become one of the top training officers. Lambert does not hide his disdain for Jake's past crimes, making tensions between the two high. Amara and Scrapper are transported to the airbase. Although the landing is not smooth, it still impresses the engineers at the base. Amara is quickly overwhelmed by the scale and the most modern Jaeger collection today. Titan Redeemer, a high-power Jaeger. Saber Athena, the fastest machine of the headquarters. Bracer Phoenix, a 3-pilot model, and especially Gypsy Avenger, which Lambert controls. At the technical center, Amara also met Jules Reyes, the lead engineer responsible for maintenance of the Jaegers. She admired Jules and still considered him a legend who had slept through the glory days. When taken to the Amara training area, she gets acquainted with the students. Although all are very smart and talented, Amara has difficulty participating in simulation training. The reason, she could not achieve neural synchronization with any other pilot. A prerequisite to controlling a Jaeger, the real challenge started here. Meanwhile, on the corporate side, Xiao Liwan, chairman of Xiao Industries Technology Group, a tycoon, is cooperating with the Chinese government and scientist Dr. Newton Geisler, who played an important role in the previous Kaiju victory. Their goal is to implement the unmanned Jaeger project, completely automatic combat machines, needing no pilots to operate. They argue that this will minimize casualties, save manpower and training time. However, not everyone agrees. Many are concerned that without direct human control of Jaegers, the risk will no longer be in our hands, but will move to other forces, and no one knows what the real goal is. The deeper they went into the unmanned Jaeger project, Mako began to feel the potential danger. The automation technology is advanced, but it is extremely vulnerable to being controlled if it falls into the wrong hands. Having no doubt, she needed to find the truth behind the autonomous Jaegers. She asked her younger brother Jake to accompany her to a summit in Sydney as high-level security. Right at the meeting, the atmosphere became more tense than ever. Gipsy Avenger, the Jaeger of the headquarters, was transported by a giant aircraft and dropped down in the heart of the city as a warning to protesters opposing the project. Jake and Lambert controlled Gipsy, but after many years away from the battlefield, Jake struggled to keep balance when landing clumsily. On the observing helicopter, Mako suddenly felt something was wrong. A large flock of birds was rushing towards the mainland as if running away from something. Her hunch was not wrong. From the ocean's heart, a strange giant Jaeger called Obsidian Fury emerged, walking directly to the shore without caring about the people fleeing in panic below. Obsidian Fury immediately fired the first series of bullets directly into Mako's helicopter. Not stopping, it continued to launch missiles to attack Gipsy directly. Fortunately, Lambert promptly reacted, controlling Gipsy to avoid the blow narrowly. The central building collapsed, nearly ending Mako's life as her helicopter crashed. Gipsy promptly supported the falling structure to save the team from a direct hit. However, the real battle had just begun. Obsidian Fury was obviously not part of the headquarters. It began to attack like a creature. Mako immediately realized that Obsidian Fury's control source was identical to the signal from the automatic Jaeger project Xiao and the government were developing. She tried to send a warning to Jake, but the signal was completely jammed in the battle area. Unable to contact Jake, Lambert was forced to fight. Gipsy used a nearby helicopter as a weapon to attack Obsidian Fury, but the opponent not only blocked the attack easily, but also countered violently. It launched tremendous punches, pressing Gipsy's head into neighboring buildings, causing entire blocks to fall into ruin. It is unclear what technology Obsidian Fury had been upgraded with, but its power far exceeded any Jaeger from previous fabrication. Jake was forced to improvise, with Gipsy constantly taking hits. The battle tilted towards the stranger. Just when Gipsy almost collapsed, Lambert made the decision to activate the 21-meter-long plasma sword, their ultimate weapon. But unexpectedly, Obsidian Fury also had similar weapons, even upgraded with a blade capable of slashing. Two Jaegers dueled fiercely. Obsidian Fury launched a slash hitting Gipsy, causing the armor to be seriously damaged. But Jake did not give up. Taking advantage of an opening, he ordered a counterattack with close-range missiles from Gipsy's chest. An unexpected attack caused Obsidian Fury to be blasted into a large building. However, Obsidian Fury's reaction was too strong. It immediately shot rockets to attack, one of them hitting Mako's downed helicopter, causing it to explode. Witnessing his sister fall into danger, Jake is no longer hesitant. He activated the most advanced energy weapon on Gipsy to lift the entire wreckage and Mako clear of the ground, and launched a desperate attack on Obsidian Fury, causing it to fall. In the last moment, Mako used her little remaining time to send a security file to the command center, revealing crucial data about Obsidian Fury, showing that the organization behind the unmanned Jaeger development was responsible. Jake rushed, screaming his sister's name in the middle of the rubble, but when he arrived, it was too late. The helicopter exploded upon impact, creating a high fire column in the middle of the city. Mako, Jake's adopted sister, sacrificed, leaving behind mourning and a set of encrypted data that couldn't be fully decrypted. Jake rushed to the scene, desperately calling her name, but it was all too late. While Gipsy Avenger was still in an emergency state, Obsidian Fury suddenly retreated and dove deep into the ocean, disappearing without a trace. The biggest question now is, who is controlling Obsidian Fury, and what its true purpose? Jake brought grief and loss back to base. There, he saw Amara quietly practicing by herself, not resting or discouraged. Touched by her energy, Jake decided to guide her neural linking techniques, attempting to create harmony between their two minds. In the synchronization process, he entered Amara's deepest memory. A family sea trip that seemed happy suddenly turned tragic when a giant kaiju attacked. The bridge where her family was standing collapsed, separating her from her parents forever. The memory of the past made Amara almost collapse, but Jake quickly pulled her back to reality. Shortly thereafter, Jake was called to an emergency meeting. Dr. Herman, after analyzing the encrypted data package that Mako sent before sacrificing, discovered the signal of Obsidian Fury's origin came from a mysterious abandoned facility in Siberia. Without hesitation, Jake requested to be mobilized there. He needed to know the truth and needed justice for his deceased sister. At the same time, Xiao Liwen, head of the automatic Jaeger project, ordered the deployment of the production line to produce the entire unmanned Jaeger series within 48 hours. Under the supervision of Dr. Newton Geisler, huge battle machines are gradually being assembled. But behind Newton's intellectual appearance, he is no longer himself. After connecting his nerves to the Kaiju brain in the previous experiment, he was accidentally possessed. The companion always appearing with him, thought to be his assistant, is actually a synthetic body containing the brain of a Kaiju, called Alice by Newton. Since then, he has become a slave of the extraplanetary forces, abetting the conspiracy to invade again. Meanwhile, Jake and Lambert controlled Gypsy Avenger, heading to the facility in Siberia. Radar discovered abnormal signals, but before they could approach, a series of missiles suddenly came. The entire area is engulfed in explosions. Obsidian Fury appeared to attack from the outset and destroy all evidence. The battle broke out in harsh conditions, amidst snow and mountain terrain. Gypsy Avenger landed the first blow, grappling Obsidian Fury, and both fell from the mountainside onto the glacier below. Obsidian Fury quickly countered, with high-energy lasers breaking the ice surface and pushing both into the cold water. Jake was forced to activate the sub-ice maneuvering mechanism, temporarily hiding in an icy cave. Obsidian Fury quietly came to inspect it. Area. But suddenly, close-range missiles from Gypsy were triggered, blasting Obsidian Fury away. Taking advantage of the surprise, Gypsy rushed out, used the plasma cannon for continuous shots, causing Obsidian Fury to collapse. But the opponent recovered too quickly. This time it was stronger than before. The two Jaegers rushed into each other like two mountains, but this time Jake no longer fought with emotion, but with strategy. When he saw Obsidian Fury hit and showed signs of weakness, Jake ordered Lambert to close in. Gypsy pulled the plasma sword, tossing an unexpected slash, but Obsidian Fury was still strong enough to fight back. However, with every attack, Gypsy gradually backed Obsidian Fury into a corner. In a moment of tension, Jake said defiantly, "Whether a freak of Kaiju biology or technology betrayed, today you won't leave here." In the final fierce battle in Siberia, Jake and Lambert put all the power of Gypsy Avenger into defeating Obsidian Fury. At the key moment, Jake chiseled a hole in its chest armor and took out the power core. The loss of its main energy source caused Obsidian Fury to immediately lose control and fall like a steel tower. But what stunned the two when checking the control compartment, they found no pilot inside. Instead, deep within the armor was a living Kaiju brain, connected directly to the control nervous system. Jake was surprised. Wasn't the Kaiju gate closed more than 10 years ago? Dr. Herman, after checking, confirms it is indeed a Kaiju brain, but has a difference. It does not contain the characteristic radioactivity of previous Kaiju. That proves they have been cloned by humans. At the same time, the Obsidian Fury wreckage was transported to the base for testing. Amara and a group of students, out of curiosity, entered the restricted area. While cutting a piece of conduit, they discovered a dark fluid inside. A cadet was injured when accidentally touching the dangerous Kaiju solution. Amara was arrested and temporarily locked up for investigation. In the mood of the moment, Jake visited her. He shared the reason for his previous aloofness, his extravagant, careless personality, and losing his father before he could prove himself. He advised Amara not to let others' judgments define who she is, define herself step by step, and victory will follow. Before leaving, Amara blurted out that she realized the technical details in Obsidian Fury matched the exclusive design of Xiao Industries, the corporation behind the unmanned Jaegers. Jake immediately reported this to the superior. Meanwhile, Dr. Herman went to his old friend Newton to discuss the incident, but his friend was now different. After years of neural connection with Kaiju Alice's brain, he is no longer entirely human. The assimilation takes place silently but thoroughly. At the same time, at the Hong Kong military base where the unmanned Jaegers are preparing to launch, a series of technical glitches occur. Remote control signals are constantly interrupting. In the witness of officers and cadets, the entire unmanned Jaeger fleet began to change. From the inside of their armored heads, Kaiju clones emerged and bit off the entire control devices. In a horrific moment, the entire Jaeger fleet automatically turned into semi-mechanical monsters, Kaiju hybrids, completely destroying the base, annihilating anything in their way. Hong Kong City is in chaos. The Shatterdome defense base was wiped out in just a few minutes. The students panicked and fled, including Amara and her group. Before the training commander was forced to order, "Take the manned Jaegers, counterattack immediately." On the other hand, Herman finally discovered the horrific truth. Newton is the mastermind behind it all. Newton secretly transplanted Kaiju brains into the unmanned Jaegers, controlling them as a huge biomechanical army. When Herman tried to reason with him, Newton responded with a cold attitude. He did not need to hide it anymore. "I am no longer Newton. I am the messenger of a species superior to humans." He announced the activation of the entire Kaiju machine army worldwide and poured energy to reopen the space gate. The gate sealed in the past now began to crack and open again. Herman was shocked and tried to stop him, but Newton drew his gun to finish him and cover his tracks. In the decisive moment, Xiao Liwen suddenly appeared, confronting Newton. She said coldly, "I invested all my life to protect this world, not letting it be destroyed by a madman." Surprisingly, they exchanged gunfire. Despite knowing his friend was gone, Herman, with the heart of a scientist and a friend, still decided to try to save Newton instead of finishing him. He deeply believes a part of the old friend's mind is still human. But that kindness only delayed the devastation. Meanwhile, at the Hong Kong base, the Kaiju hybrids continued to devastate violently. They broke through the Shatterdome doors, rushed into the command center, and destroyed everything. With the base in flames and smoke, students and engineers must evacuate urgently. Herman and Xiao Liwen gathered their remaining forces and headquarters personnel to find a way to shut down the entire Kaiju hybrid army. They searched for the central control core. Finally, after breaching the original system, they destroyed the artificial neural core from the inside, cutting the control signal source of the hybrid Jaegers. The space gate immediately lost energy, closing just as Kaiju were trying to come through. The gate clamped shut on the grotesque forms caught at the interdimensional edge. Thinking that everything was fine, the radar screen showed a red warning. 3 Kaiju had been able to cross the gate before it closed, and were entering the mainland. Hakuja, with thick armor and extremely high movement speed. Raijin, a melee specialist with fast adaptation. Shrikthorn, a Kaiju level 5, towering like a 30-story building, possessing the ability to absorb and respond to energy. While the veteran pilot teams were almost all gone, the surviving manned Jaegers were heavily damaged. Headquarters could only put the last belief in the generation of young students. There was no time to choose. Herman proposed a dangerous but urgent solution, attaching rocket engines to the Jaegers' backs to quickly transport them to the Tokyo battlefield, where the 3 Kaiju are gathering towards Mount Fuji. Amara, Jake, Lambert, and the group of students officially became war pilots, leading the last 4 Jaegers of humanity. Saber Athena, quick, accurate, and favored for melee. Bracer Phoenix, strong, heavy, with 3 drivers. Guardian Bravo, equipped with an electric whip and target lock. And Gypsy Avenger, the final icon of the program. In Tokyo, the 3 Kaiju began to devastate the city. They destroyed neighborhoods, crushing everything in their way. Herman speculated that they were trying to activate the Pacific Rim by leading Kaiju blood into contact with rare Earth elements around Fuji. Once the reaction occurs, the Earth will be destroyed in just a few hours. The war began. Saber Athena attacked Hakuja, slashing hard on its chest. It took a few steps back, but quickly pushed back when Hakuja responded with a hook. Bracer Phoenix responded, using its shoulder cannon to shoot straight at Raijin, pushing it back into the city. Gypsy Avenger confronted Shrikethorn directly and launched a full punch to its face. But Shrikethorn absorbs energy. The counterattack sent Gypsy flying hundreds of meters away. Lambert and Jake lost control momentarily, but still regained balance. Guardian Bravo tried to use the electric whip to control Raijin, but was thrown into Saber Athena. Both Jaegers would be crushed if not saved in time. Herman from the command base warns that Shrikethorn's armor can respond to physical attacks, so a coordinated strategy is needed. The frontline commander decided to use the terrain, pulling buildings down onto the Kaiju, but that only slowed them slightly. In a dangerous phase, Hakuja tried to ambush Saber Athena from behind, but Athena launched a backwards kick, pushing it back and escaping in a snap. The battle became more chaotic than ever. The Jaegers began to sustain damage, the pilots gradually exhausted. Fortunately, the Jaeger pilot group discovered the monster's weak spot. They aimed precisely at the chinks in a shell at the back of the Kaiju's necks and launched powerful fire, making the creatures scream in pain. Gypsy and teammates rushed in, temporarily gaining the upper hand. It seemed the battle was nearing an end when another scary shadow appeared from the darkness. The traitor Newton was silently watching all movements from a remote control center. He triggered all the top-secret projects of Shao Industries, releasing thousands of tiny monsters, products from Kaiju cloning technology combined with machines. What no one expected, the machine creatures did not attack the Jaegers, but instead rushed to the 3 living Kaiju. They tore the parts of the 3 monsters into pieces, and then, like parasites, began to reconnect them into a single body. Before humanity's eyes now stood a level 6 Kaiju monster, the strongest, largest, most terrifying ever recorded. A strange, bizarre creature like a mountain, carrying the combined mass of 3 Kaiju. There was no doubt, the ultimate coincidence had officially appeared. The remaining 4 Jaegers hurriedly gathered all heavy weapons. They fired simultaneously: shoulder missiles, plasma cannon, electricity, double swords. It all focused on the level 6 monster, but was no different from throwing stones at a wall. Just a punch from it created a shock like an earthquake, generating a huge shockwave that tossed the entire Jaeger squad, breaking their formation. Guardian Bravo, in a moment of recklessness, rushed into confrontation, but it was immediately caught by the monster and thrown like a toy. One of the pilots inside sacrificed on the spot, becoming the first casualty in this new battle. The command center hurriedly analyzed this monster has up to 3 functional brains. To destroy it, they must destroy all 3 brain regions simultaneously, an almost impossible task with the current force. Saber Athena and Bracer Phoenix tried to attack from different directions, but only made the monster angrier. It swept and tore off Athena's and Phoenix's arms. The 2 Jaegers were knocked down and disabled in turn, leaving the squad with only Gypsy Avenger and a backup Phoenix, likely Guardian Bravo reactivated. Amara and her teammates in Bracer Phoenix tried to escape as their Jaeger was being destroyed, while the level 6 Kaiju still constantly advanced towards Mount Fuji, trying to activate the Earth-destroying reaction series. At this time, Gypsy Avenger risked its life crossing the battlefield, launched a strong charge, but was hit by the monster, knocked away hundreds of meters into the city center. Although injured, the commander, Lambert/Jake, still tries to control the Jaeger to stop the monster, but his strength is gradually exhausted. The monster swung its tail like a flaming whip, penetrating the armor, causing Lambert serious injury, and the Jaeger to lose control. Now, with no second pilot, since Lambert was down, Gypsy is almost completely paralyzed. In that despair, Amara appeared, volunteering to become the co-pilot with Jake in the Gypsy machine. The 2 successfully connected and immediately restarted the armor. However, the level 6 monster approached the peak of Mount Fuji. No longer hesitating, Xiao Liwen gave Jake control of an old transport Jaeger to move a heavy missile. She risked her life to attach the missile to the arm of Gypsy Avenger, forming the last weapon. The missile booted up, Gypsy carried Amara and Jake towards the monster, dragging the missile burning brilliantly, weaving through ruined buildings. Gypsy Avenger, with the armed missile fixed to its arm, soared like a burning meteorite through the atmosphere, towards the 6th Kaiju approaching the top of Mount Fuji. The life of the Earth was now measured in seconds. Jake and Amara gripped the controls preparing for the fateful collision, but the escape system malfunctioned. The emergency exit couldn't open. Both were trapped in the driving flare. There was no other way but to accept sacrifice to ensure the missile hit the target. At the last moment, with no hope, Xiao Liwen controlled the transport Jaeger to attack, drilling an opening through the outer armor of Gypsy. Jake and Amara quickly escaped through this opening and jumped from Gypsy, rolling down the snowy mountainside behind the giant machine rushing towards the Kaiju. The collision took place like a violent earthquake. The whole mountain shook as Gypsy pierced through the Kaiju's body and then detonated the missile, creating a huge explosion that lit up the whole Japanese sky. The level 6 Kaiju screamed in pain as its giant body was torn into pieces, its gore shot up onto the white snow. In the end, the most powerful monster in human history was destroyed. The battle ended. The sky cleared. At Newton's control center, he is trying to escape. But Lambert appears at the right time, giving him a punch that knocks Newton unconscious. He was immediately arrested. When he wakes up, Newton states, "People can win today, but they will come back. The Kaiju will return, and next time there will be no survivors." Jake looks straight at him with cold eyes. "Next time, we won't wait for you to come. We will go to your planet." This is the end of the 2 Pacific Rim movies. Thank you for watching the video. If you found it interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos. Bye!